Having a mutation quirk like yours was bothersome. Mostly because it prevented you from being taken serious. After all, despite the great offensive capabilities of your quirk, Alpha Predator, your outward appearance was perceived as overly cute. Despite your enhanced agility, strength, and most importantly durability, you also had to deal with certain hereditary features. Aggressive hair growth, starting at your wrists, going to your elbows, and your lower legs. A fluffy tail that made lying on your back quite uncomfortable, and dog ears. Your father always tried to lighten the mood by calling them wolf ears, but you both knew that in the end, it was the same thing. At the moment you were sitting inside the common room of your dorms. It had been a very hot day and the others in your class had gotten permission from Aizawa to use the school's pool. For, as your classmate Ida had put it, recreational purposes. Seems as if Kaminari and Mineta have learned from their last blunder. While you were invited too, you heavily disliked the school's swimsuits. Most because of the color and the fact you weren't allowed to cut a hole into it for your tail. Then again, you probably should have asked someone who wasn't Aizawa about this issue. But you refused to wear your regular swimsuit. You'd be sticking out like a sore thumb if you did. And why wouldn't you leave the comfort of the dorms? After closing the blinds of the large windows and cranking the AC up to extra cold, it probably was more refreshing in the common room than at the pool. When you had first laid eyes upon the air conditioner, you thought you would have an aneurysm. You had begged your parents for years to get one installed at your home, but apparently it was too expensive. You were about to doze off on the sofa when footsteps approached somewhere behind you. Even though it was unintentional, you immediately braced yourself. Because of your mutation, you had to deal with certain comments and requests from your more unruly classmates. And you are right now way too relaxed to deal with that. No, I'm not going to bore you, Mineta. You growled in resignation after the person stopped behind you. Bakugou, on the other hand, just looked at you dumbfounded. The fuck's vor? Blushing, you turned your head. Oh, sorry, Katsuki. I thought you were someone else. The blonde blinked. You still haven't answered my question. You shook your head. Trust me, you don't want to know. He simply shrugged and walked over to the other sofa in front of you. Bored? You asked after he sat down. He scoffed, affirmingly, but didn't answer directly. After a minute of almost awkward silence, you finally spoke up again. Thought you were with the others. He shrugged. Last time was for training. I don't like chlorine in my water. Your lips perked up. So do I. It makes my fur... You looked at your hairy arms. Fur? He asked. Yeah. My fur. It makes it smell like it's... Yeah, my fur. They smell like it for days, even after using that sweet baby shampoo I used to avoid dandruff. He raised an eyebrow. Can you imagine that sucking? He leaned back and teasingly asked, Where's this sudden interest in me coming from? He blinked. I mean, you're not a guy who talks to a lot of people. You playfully grinned. You are the kind of guy who pushes everyone away just to see who cares enough about you to give you a second chance. After a second chance, a smell wafted over to you. Not a fart. Thanks to your canine nature, you could smell mood changes. Not that you needed to smell his anger to realize that you just offended him. His eyes widened and his neutral expression turned pouty. And one of his fingers twitched as if he was about to jump and point said finger at you. You sighed, rolling your eyes. Here, let me help you. You gave a quiet cough before imitating his voice. One more comment like that and we go visit the farm where all dogs can play free forever. He was taken aback. Huh, that was a great imitation. You grinned in response. Well, in a world of quirks, talents are usually forgotten, but they still exist. He shrugged. In that case, I wonder how many people are just quirkless losers who just happen to have a very useful talent. You giggled. What? He said with a smug smile. If your quirk was gone, what talent would you use to still live comfortable? He blinked. I'm smart. If that were to happen, I could come up with something, but I don't want to waste my time thinking about something that won't happen. Shrugging, you replied, why does everyone tell me this doesn't make sense when I come up with hypothetical scenarios? I mean, that's the point of them. Imagine what you would do if X were to happen. Why is that so difficult? He snapped his fingers. Gotcha. I actually did answer your question. Remember, the first sentence I said. You pouted. Yeah, sure, he was smart. Right. Fine, you win, you said reluctantly. He chuckled. What? Your ears just dropped. You blushed in embarrassment, and he gave a hearty laugh. In an attempt to steer the conversation back into your favor, you blurted out, cut that crap. Why are you really talking to me? For a moment his movement stopped altogether. His stupid grin replaced with shame. I lost a bet. You blinked. Sure, you weren't the most popular girl, but the fact that the boys needed to lose bets to pay attention to you, that was very insulting. A bet? You asked, perplexed. The drop in your mood being very audible. What kind of bet? He raised both hands defensively. Not what you're thinking. Oh, what am I thinking? You barked. He sighed. Lost a bet with shitty hair. And as punishment, he said, I shall spend the evening with you. Now that he said it out loud, it did sound like what you were thinking. He sighed. Okay, now that I say it out loud, I know how it sounds, but I have trouble bringing my point across without it sounding like an excuse. Annoyed, you simply stated, and just say it. You lost the bet. I spent the rest of the day with your little puppy. Wait, what did he just say? Your eyes began to rapidly blink as you attempted to process what he just said. Puppy? Somehow this was more insulting. He shrugged. I mean, man's gotta respect the bet. Puppy? You barked, ironically. Wait, is that how you call me in your friend cycle? He nodded. You were starting to put two and two together. But you needed more info. So far you had not shown interest in Bakugou. The thought he'd ever want to talk to you felt foreign. And now that you knew he called you puppy behind your back. Wait, do you have a crush on me? You blurted out, perplexed. Yeah, I guess. Yes. Yes, I have a crush on you. Not quite the confident answer you expected. I ask one more time. Do you have a... Yes! He interrupted, almost sounding annoyed. Why? We never talk. He shrugged. "'Cause that's why. Plus I like dogs. And who doesn't like puppies?" Sarcastically, you added, "Well, yeah, who doesn't? In fact, there are people who like them a little too much." Just the thought of the vor thing made a cold shower wash down your back. "It's just all of these extras either want to lick my boots or disrespect me. And sure, I like bootlickers, but I'd never date one." You grinned. "Oh, and you thought you could just ask me out? I barely know you. Except for your constant overreactions." You scratched your chin and thought. Then again, him acting out during class was refreshing and made boring lectures fun. You decided, however, not to say that. Bakugou shrugged and almost forced a grin. "And hey, might as well try, right?" You crossed your arms. "Fine, I guess. But..." You looked him straight in the eyes. "Don't call me puppy. And don't pull my tail. Unless I ask you to," you added in thought. "And if you only once throw something and say, 'Go fetch,' I will castrate you. Oh, and please, only flirt when others aren't around. They would definitely make a big deal out of this." Lastly, you sighed heavily. "I will not vor you." He slapped his knees in resignation. "Okay, seriously, what the fuck is vor?" "If we make out, will you forget about asking that?" Bakugou blinked. You really didn't want to tell him. He shrugged. "Do what you want," he said with a challenging smirk. Crossing your arms, you stood up from the sofa and walked over to Bakugou. With a huff, you sat down on the armrest next to him, only to quickly take one of his arms, pulling him into you. His head quickly turned red as he realized that he found himself between your breasts. "I know what you're thinking." Sighing, you said, "Just go ahead, say it." He grinned. "Those are some fine puppies you got there." Smirking, you shook your head, allowing him to get back on eye level with you. This close to him, his crimson eyes almost looked like they were glowing. Or maybe he was just excited about the prospect of kissing you. Then he lunged forward. The moment his lips touched yours, you could tell that he never did this before. You allowed him to awkwardly eat your face for a few seconds before pushing him off. "No," you said. He looked at you perplexed. Clearly, Bakugou never had someone say no to him like that. Let me think for a second." You could tell by his expression that his brain had a severe lack of blood flow right now. Shrugging, you muttered, "Let me take over." Now you were the one to lean forward, pressing your soft lips onto his, while taking one of his hands in yours. His mouth was soft, wet, and at least it didn't taste gross. But more importantly, whenever he tried to take over control, you dug your fingers deep into his hand until he stopped. Bakugou groaned, and you took this as a sign to gently push your tongue past his lips. The blonde couldn't believe what was happening. He never surrendered himself like this to someone before. Furthermore, he never expected to like it so much. For a moment, the two of you separated. "And this is how you properly kiss." He was too flustered to say anything. "What's with that expression?" you said with a smug grin as a small drop of spittle ran down his chin. Finally, he opened his mouth. Can... He stopped and looked away. Can you take over like that more often, please? With one hand, you gently combed through his hair. Sure can, lover boy.